now. I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz.
Don't they know?
Hello, everybody. It is the end of the world.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Preacher After Show. I'm your host, Alana Jordan. This is the last Preacher After Show ever.
The last one.
I can't believe it. It's the last episode ever.
So many emotions.
So many emotions, but I'm very glad that I don't have to go through all of them by myself.
That's true.
Dave Child, unfortunately, could not be here this evening, so be sure to send him your love and all of your thoughts and all of your tweets and all of your comments.
Shouts to Dave.
But I am here with a preacher expert, a man who dresses up as one badass combination of Deadpool and Jesse Custer at multiple conventions. Alex LaFosta is here.
Glad to be here. So excited to talk about the last episode ever of Preacher. Jeez.
Man, this was a rough one. We actually watched this episode together and got a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say that I almost started crying. This is definitely an emotional episode, especially toward the end.
This was intense. So before we kind of dive into everything, do you have any kind of overall thoughts? And by the way, be sure to stick around for the whole episode as well, because not only will we be talking about the last episode of... I keep saying it because it still isn't registering that it's real to me.
Still so soon.
But we'll also be talking about the differences between the comic book and the show, which is... pretty, a big chunk. Now that we know how it ends completely, we know exactly what was left out from the comics and what wasn't. Right. So we'll talk about that at the end of the episode, and we will not be giving any predictions because, again, it's the last episode ever. So overall thoughts on the last, did it live up to the hype that you had created for yourself?
You know what? I don't think first of all, I was definitely very satisfied. It wasn't like the best finale out of all of television, but it's so hard to, stick the landing on TV shows, especially their TV shows that are so beloved. And they had a lot of storylines to close out at the end. I think that they did a really good job. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed myself.
I really, really liked it, but it does seem weird to me. I still keep waiting for what's going to happen next, even though it's there was definitely finality to this. Our main characters are dead. Spoiler alert. Also, if you haven't watched the episode, don't watch this after show yet. Go watch the episode and then come back and watch this. It's weird. It's weird that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So this episode was kind of broken up into 3 different parts. It was our present day, our jump ahead 2 years, and then a jump ahead 40 years.
Yeah.
But going into the present day, it starts off with Cass and God having this conversation and kind of asking the big question that we've had, which is, why all this hoopla? Why are you doing this big variety show? If you're God, why aren't you just going to blow up the world? Just be done with it.
Right.
And he actually explains, that takes the fun out of it. It needs to be free will. You guys all have to play your part. What did you think of this opening scene, this cold open?
I think that it was interesting. It shows a little bit more of God's motive, I guess you'd say. And throughout the episode, it shows more. We'll get to the Alamo scene and stuff like that. But you get to see a little bit more of what his motivations are and why he's doing the things he's doing. Granted, probably not decisions that we would make if in the same position, but it definitely tries to dive in on what the psychology would be around a person who's been around, or an entity who's been around since before creation.
Yeah, I like the cold open, and I'm glad that they answered that question, but I also was okay, we have so many bigger I don't know. It was really well executed, but there was so much. I don't know. I do like that the scene that we go into to start off the episode 2 after the cold open is kind of seeing how people can change and seeing that that's been a recurring theme and something that God's been kind of testing is that, can you change? Can you be better? Will humanity pass this test? And Featherstone and Tulip, who have been at odds this whole time, end up coming together.
Yeah.
And Featherstone explains her whole weird kind of cultish, like, attraction to Klaus. Like, it felt very much like how Squeaky Fromme described being attracted to, like, freaking Manson. Like, I was like... This is just, it felt very like...
It definitely delved a little bit into her, background. Obviously, whenever she fell in love with Hairstar, or when she, ended up with him, she was at a very low point in her life. So maybe that's why she was so easily emotionally manipulated to, like, start this as her new path. But, she's still very much in love with Star. And, actually, it seems like at this point she's at a crossroads. She's like, am I still in love with this person? Or do I need to choose a new path because he doesn't feel the same way?
She loved, I think, what he represented, and then he didn't represent that anymore. Like, she had this sense of righteousness this whole time, and righteousness was what drove her.
Right.
And Tulip points out to her, sometimes living for yourself, not for religion, not for a cause, not for a man, sometimes that's not being selfish, sometimes that is being righteous.
Right.
And it's this moment. Line. Yeah, it was such a good line.
Yeah.
And having it delivered from, like, her arch nemesis,
right,
who we know cares about her, because we find out that Featherstone's first name is Sarah, too.
Yeah.
Tries to shoot herself, and then she's used all of her bullets, and Tulip keeps her gun. She's like, look, I fixed your gun for you. This is a sign, I think, basically insinuating it's a sign that you didn't die. But these can jam up sometimes. I fixed it, but I'm going to hold on to it.
Right.
Because even though I've been trying to kill you for the past, 2 seasons, I don't want you to die.
Right. And I like that moment where she's like, I don't want you to die. I fixed this, but I'm keeping it. But I liked immediately after that, Featherstone's like, yeah, I got a bunch of those.
I got a bunch of those. I got a million.
That's sweet,
I got a few.
But I have several.
I have several. I got a lot. Who else has a large collection? AfterBuzz TV has a very large collection of after shows.
Oh my! What a segue.
And you can find them all too by going and subscribing to our various channels. They're all set up for you, organized real nice. So please do us a favor, give us those thumbs up, those 5 stars, those ratings, those subscriptions.
Absolutely.
Because we love hearing from you guys, and we love being able to have these after shows and being able to discuss shows like Preacher the last time ever with you guys, and to be able to keep the conversation going as well. So, do us a favor. Go ahead, click that button. We'll wait.
Yeah. Not that long.
Okay, that should be about enough time for you to click the button.
Yeah, that's enough time to click a thumb.
Now, kind of talking about this whole dynamic of how Tulip and Featherstone have been fighting, this whole first act is broken up into these various fights.
Yeah.
So we have the fight sequence of Hitler versus Jesus.
Which is so
just
great.
Weird to say that we're setting up, what did you think about the fight between Hitler versus Jesus? But I gotta be honest, I was a little disappointed. We had these little intercuts of their fight. And while it was a cool fight, it was a great fight sequence, I wanted Hitler to suffer a little bit more. I think Hitler got off too easy. What do you think?
I think, you know what? I get the way that's... It wasn't as... I get the reason why it wasn't as stylized as the other fights, because these two were probably the least combat ready out of all the characters. They don't know they don't know karate like everybody else. So
you don't think Jesus has been studying karate?
Maybe Muay Thai, or Tai Chi rather. But no, I get why that one wasn't as stylized. Although I feel like there were some pretty cool moves in there. There was this one crucifix back slam that Hitler and Jesus went into. But no, I thought that was a really interesting visual, and I did not realize that that's what I wanted my entire life. It was just a fist fight. And
Hitler yelling Jew at Jesus, and Jesus being like, "You goddamn right."
Yeah. Oh man,
I didn't think that I wanted that really bad, but yeah, I'm with you. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, that feels right. That feels good. Just amazing. Punch him right in the face, Jesus. Punch Hitler right in the face. But yeah, he ends up choking him to death and killing Hitler. But it's I felt like he should have suffered more. I felt like it should have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. I mean, it's Hitler. You want him to have the worst of the worst kind of end for himself. But yeah, unfortunately, it didn't really go that way. Although it was still satisfying for me to see, Jesus kill Hitler. That was a cool.
And I do
cool
like the timing too. That immediately after God shows up,
yeah,
and that he's like, "Oh hey, Dad," and he's like covering up Hitler's body, where he's like, "What's up?"
I'm not doing anything.
I'm not doing
Don't worry
nothing.
about that.
Don't worry about it. And then it's like he finds out that he is going to be the Messiah because. Tulip and Cass have this big epic fight.
Yeah.
And this is one hell of a showdown. This is one that we've been kind of waiting for because, a little spoiler, in the comics, Cass is a lot worse than he is in this. I mean, he's like a true gentleman in this show. But we get this moment where he's pushed too far and where Tulip is like, look, you're just going to let the world, like, if you let Humperdew live, we all die. If you don't kill him, you kill all of us.
Right.
This is like the ultimate philosophical trolley problem, but boiled down to like the Messiah problem.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to kill the Messiah to save the rest of us, even though he is a true innocent? And going through this whole thing where then she brings up, look, I know you're upset that Jesse's back, but I've loved him for forever, and that's not going to change. And that this is flat out explained. Like, this is who I choose. And yeah, that sucks for you, but you're just going to have to get over it.
Right.
And keeps hitting him in the face. And Cass finally breaks and is like, look, I've let you hit me like this over and over because I'm in love with you and I've let it go. But if you hit me like that again, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And she hits him and they have a full-fledged, intense fight.
Yeah, that was the one I was the most invested in out of all the mini fights that were going on at this time. Like, because of the relationship between between Tulip and Cass, like you could really, like, I was definitely just
and Ruth Negga and Joseph Gilgun really
yeah,
is like
for sure. So, like, coming back from like their misfit days, like it was definitely really cool to see them fighting each other because you really. Like, it's much akin to, like, Tony Stark and Captain America fighting each other. These are people who loved each other so much, but now they're at odds because they have very different objectives. And that kind of conflict is so much more rich when the characters have been loving each other for so long, and now that they're at a conflict where they have no choice but to fight. That was a really cool fight.
Yeah, and having her literally shoot him in the heart.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it looked like he was about to kill her. And if Cass had killed her, we never would have forgiven him. That would have just been the ultimate thing that we would be like, well, that character is now irredeemable.
Right.
But having Tulip shoot an immortal twice in the heart is like, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it ultimately boils down to, like, okay, Cass, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And he shoots Humperdew in the head.
Yeah.
What were you thinking in this? Well, he didn't shoot him in the head. He shot him like in the chest because we see him go through the clothes.
Right. Yeah.
Go wait in the clothes hump.
Yeah. Go wait in the clothes hump. I thought that was so cute, but not his death, but it's just him asking him to wait.
I know. I kind of set you up with that one. I apologize. That was a little bit of a dirty trick.
But no, it was definitely very shocking.
Godlike, some would say. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
God's plan. Oh God! But no, I thought that it was a really interesting scene. Like, I was definitely very shocking when he decided to shoot Humperdew, and I was kind of confused because I was like, wait, what made you come to that decision? And I think that they don't really fully explain why he made that decision in that moment until later in the show or later in the episode. But I thought that, like, ultimately it made a lot of sense, and I really like that decision. And you can really see the pain in Cass's face.
Yeah, and then having him explain after when he's talking about how great Hump was and how he felt when he was with them and how it was like this indescribable thing.
Right.
Because you also, I mean, like, he's a cursed creature. Like, he is a quote-unquote damned creature. Yeah. So to have this bonding with the Messiah, this is probably the first time he felt like he was going to actually be saved, but this was pretty much a personal sacrifice for him as well, to kill Humperdew, which is
like sort of his surrogate son, and also to bring up, like you mentioned before, he's lived so many lives, he's lived for so long, he's probably seen every shade of human being, like the good and the bad of all, but he considers this guy to be purely innocent, like the best of anyone he's ever met, and that's gotta hurt. To be the, like, I gotta be the
person who kills him. Yeah. That is just super, super rough. But we see this really, really intense fight too. Talking about rough, the ultimate showdown.
Right, of course.
Of course, Hair Star versus the Fax Machine.
I knew you were going to say that. I loved that, like when they're cutting in between all the fight scenes, and then you get back to Hair Star just stabbing
the fax machine, just angry. He's like on the phone with Adnan, and he's like, "I don't have time to set up an in-house call, Adnan. The world is ending today."
I thought that was great. Just
so good.
One of the great moments one of the great things that this show is always so good at is like having the tension and the horror elements mixed with the super ridiculous comedy elements.
The editing on this show too is just absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Having all of these fight intercut and then having the split screen even within the same fights.
Kind of looked like a comic book layout a couple of times.
Very much was actual panels. Yeah. It was like actual reflections of panels, which we'll dive into a little bit more in a special segment. Page flipped, flip, which was always Dave's favorite as well. He hated that name. I'm talking about Dave like he's like not with us anymore. R.I.P. Dave. But anyway, so we get the actual ultimate showdown. Right. The battle from hell is Jesse versus the Saint.
Yeah.
This is like the epic showdown. And speaking of hell, it's really hot in here. I don't know if we can get some AC in the studio, but I'm kind of dying a little bit. You
got it.
I was trying to segue that in the most like casual way to make it work, but I was like, whoo, man. But yeah, talking about heating up.
The showdown
Saint versus Jesse, though.
Yeah, that was a really interesting fight, a really dope fight. I mean, obviously, Saint had the upper hand for a lot of the time, and it's kind of one of those moments where you don't know that Jesse's probably not going to die at this moment, but you're thinking, how is he going to get out of it? And we get our answer in a couple of shots where.
Yeah, I mean, well, we also have the fact that he's helped by the Seraphim, and the demons show up, and it's like, okay, yeah, Jesse, this is rough for you, like this is the end, and then he's like, if you kill me, you kill Genesis. You better not piss off his parents. Then mom and dad are like, we got knives and we're ready to rumble, Saint. Yeah. What you gonna do? Our love is weird.
Our love is weird. I thought that it was I honestly forgot about that storyline. Well, specifically that the Genesis was the birth child of like the angel and the demon. Like I was like, oh yeah, that's how all this craziness even started. Because
Genesis, love. The being that should not be, was born out of love, which is so ironic too that's what God has been fighting this whole time when it's what he says he wants to embrace.
Right.
And it's this idea that like, okay, does love actually conquer all? And I mean, ultimately, yes, but it's like, man, there are sacrifices along the way.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, I mean, I do love that Jesse's like, looks like you brought a gun to a knife fight. And I was like, stupid line, but well executed.
Everything sounds better with a southern accent.
It's just, does it?
Well,
I started to agree, and then I was like, I don't know. I feel like I've heard a lot of things with a southern accent that sound really stupid.
Well, I guess it's like that
War Eagle.
Southern gentleman, like the Jesse Custer. The Jesse Custer southern accent is like
I think it's just him.
Yeah.
But we get the demon even cuts the Saint's face.
Yeah.
And the Saint's super pissed by this. So he starts going off, and this poor Seraphim is like, this is hurting, I'm dying. And he's like, but you're gonna come back, right? Like that's the whole good thing about you being here is that you can just die over and over, like we've seen as I burned a big pile of your bodies just last episode. Or maybe the one prior, I don't know, it was recent.
I think it was last episode.
But you can't die, you'll come back. And he's like, I just crap myself. I think I'm dying. I think this is it for me. And that's not great. And then he has to see his love being slaughtered before him, What did you think of this too? Because man, the Saint just went to town. He shot her and then just kept slicing her
he
to
was
bits.
really mad about getting cut on the face because he went way into her. I don't know why they made such a big deal about him like cutting her up. Maybe just to emphasize that he was that mad about getting cut on the face. But that was an interesting choice.
It was insane to me. I was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
Like, God, this poor... I'm also thinking this actress came in to say, like, virtually nothing and then just die over and over and over in the most horrific ways.
Yeah.
And she does it brilliantly, so...
Yeah, shout outs to that actress.
I know, right? We're like, did not do our research, but you did a real good job. So you did a better job than we have done. But yeah, it's this whole thing that leads to this moment too, where the Saint is about to kill Jesse, and Jesse kind of convinces him, where he's like, "Look, you've been promised this little happy picnic all of eternity. Is this actually what you want? Like, if this is what you want, then go for it. But is this really what you want?"
Yeah.
And ultimately, and we see then just Jesse slitting the Saint's throat.
Right.
And both of us, I think, had the initial knee-jerk reaction, which is like, what? Like, I wish they would have explained that a little bit more.
Like,
and they do later, but
Yeah.
like... If they hadn't have had that later explanation, I just would have been furious.
Yeah.
But even that moment, I was like...
Yeah, in retrospect, I think that they did it on purpose. Because, like, I was the same way. I was like, what? Okay, I wish they explained that a little bit more. Because it did feel like the pacing was, like, really amped up. And I get it, because they're trying to cram a lot of things happen in this episode. So it seemed like a lot of the editing was, like, very breakneck speed. So I was just thinking... Oh, that was an unnecessary, like, that was edited unnecessarily fast. But yeah, when we find out, like, what exactly happened when we weren't watching, that was really cool. I was like, okay, that kind of ties up nice and neatly.
Yeah, is that it's like, okay, the ultimate thing is that, no, you are not going to be able to get away with this.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about when we go into the jump ahead. But it basically leads us to Jesse coming out on stage and telling everybody, hey, world's not knitting. I'm using my voice. Turn off your TV. And then that's the end of that.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say more, but it was like, nope, once the TV's off, there's no point in continuing. Right. So I guess that's that. But having this whole moment of this whole thing boiling down to... or this whole first act of the present time coming down to this whole show and then having it be this just click off.
Yeah.
We even have who we see the agent, the opening scene who infiltrates the Grail agent.
Right.
Just go, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Did you feel that it was anticlimactic, or did you feel that the way that it set it up with all of the other fights around it made it fleshed out enough for you?
I feel like, I feel like the way that the fights like sort of blended into that denouement, I guess you would say, or mid episode denouement.
Yeah,
where,
it was like a 3-part.
Yeah,
denouement. It was odd. It was very, very well structured, but oddly structured.
Yeah, it was like an ending to each act. But like, yeah, with that, the way that the fight scenes like sort of flowed into his like last speech to the Grail, like I feel like that was a little weird because like it seemed like everything was amping up and then it just ended and then he was like turn off your TVs and that was it. Like, but I did like the little speech that he gave like later, right after he told everybody to turn the TVs off. But all I could think of is like that must have been a weird day for everybody at home. I was like, all right, we saw some weird stuff on TV and then I was compelled to turn it off.
And then I turned it off, and then it was like, okay, I guess I'll go read a book. I don't get on. I don't know what to do now. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I liked it, especially because we had that scene where after Humperdew is shot, this kind of zoom in on God in the crowd, and then Humperdew, and then the zoom out from the hallway with all of the Grail followers, and then Jesse at the door and the 3 of them together. I think if they hadn't have all 3 been reunited first, before Jesse came out, I think I would have had a problem with it. But I think for some reason having the 3 together, like their holy trinity that they have going on, made it feel complete to me.
I did like the moment. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I did like the moment right after the fight, or right after Jesse's speech, where Tulip screams out "to the end of the world," because that was kind of like her and Jesse's thing. Like they would love each other till the end of the world. And that's the title of the episode.
Look at that, the end of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then even having Cass like, look, the three of us saved the world. Who else can say that besides, Churchill and Frodo Baggins?
Yeah.
That Frodo Baggins conversation, the delivery, God, so good. It reminded me kind of like Norm Macdonald for some reason. Like the delivery when it was just like
very dry.
Yeah. Not real.
Not real.
Not a real person.
Yeah, the short guy with the big feet who lives with the wizard. Yeah, he's not real.
It felt like Norm Macdonald's as Burt Reynolds on SNL to me. Like that's
totally.
like
it's not
episode.
real.
I'm like,
it's not real.
Yeah, no. It's a big hat. It's funny.
Yeah, totally. Which they've always been like I said before. They've always been good with just like bringing you to an emotional like state where you not sure if you want to cry, and then just throw a really great joke in there.
They are so good about doing that and having all of these psych out moments as well too, like we get with Eugene.
Right.
Who last episode is hit by a car when he's singing Closing Time and kind of twitches. We're like, is Eugene dead?
I totally thought that was the end.
Bitch. I did too. I was like, I am pissed. But because they knew people like me were going to say, son of a bitch, I'm pissed. They were like, no, don't worry about that. Eugene will not only come back, but he's had plastic surgery. So you're like, oh, what? Did they fix Eugene's face? And they take the bandages off and it's like, nope. Exact same. Exact same.
Got rid of some of that acne, but other than that, you're just
barely
looking
still
the same.
Just identical. And then this whole scene with the doctor who is offering like this euthanasia, and Eugene, his whole speech of like, I've been laughed at my whole life, but the worst is the people like you who feel sorry for me. Like, go F yourself, basically.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a rock star. And then we see him awkwardly singing Closing Time into Circle Jerk Stars and Stripes, where he's like, I'm channeling this anger.
Yeah. I kind of liked it, the whole ending. I know it was kind of fan servicey for people who are fans of the comics, but I thought it still worked in the show because halfway through the season, or pretty much,
I'm one of those people and I was happy.
Yeah. And halfway through the season, I thought that Eugene's arc had kind of like come to an end after he had his conflict with Jesse. I was like, I don't really think there's anything I want to see from Eugene for the rest of the show. But I really liked his speech with the doctor and how like he showed that he is okay. Like despite all these people feeling sad for him and wanting him to feel as bad as they feel for him, he's like, no, I'm fine, and I've always been fine. Which just shows the strength of Eugene's character, the way his character's been throughout.
And I think we needed that too, because as audience members, because we've seen Eugene be so strong throughout and be like this pillar that we've just loved throughout. I mean, if he had a bad ending, I think we would have been sad. Like if he had the same ending basically as Hitler, we would have been like, okay, come on now, really? So I'm glad that we see that he's fine and that he's good.
Yeah, just to say, I just thought about it with Humperdew dying and being like such the ultimate quintessential innocent character. Eugene's kind of on the other side where he's also just such a uniquely kind and innocent character, and like it's good to know that one of the last innocent people or the nicest people in the world is still around. Like they're not, all the people aren't really essentially getting killed for their innocence, for being good.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that, and that he's like celebrated.
Yeah.
You get it, Eugene. Yeah. But then we have this kind of second part of the episode, which is this flash ahead 2 years later, where we have the Rodriguez brothers chasing down Tulip and Jesse again. They're out, in Texas doing their thing. And we also see Kamal, who I love. So I'm glad that we see him too. With their baby. Yeah. They have a baby.
Yeah. I like that. That Kamal was like still around doing babysitting. Because, why wouldn't you keep him around? But I also like that they were just happy. Like, I like that moment where Jesse and Tulip are just doing their, hood rat stuff that they used to do back in the day before all this.
Stuff with my friends.
But it was really great when they had that moment where Jesse was like, I'm just happy. I selfishly wanted to see more of them doing crazy stuff. Being outlaws, but yeah. I
could have seen a whole just like Bonnie and Clyde spinoff of like, look at our hood rat stuff.
Yeah.
Jesse brought his lighter. I brought my attitude. But yeah, we find out too that after Jesse initially has turned to the Grail in the first part of the episode and summoned all of them to go find God in his big epic speech, where he's like, I'm done searching for God. I'm living my life. I've missed the best of my friends, and I've only seen the worst of myself, and I'm not doing it anymore, so you guys are going to go do it. This is your punishment. Go find God.
Right.
He gets the call that they found him, and that he's at the Alamo. Talking about fan servicing. We'll talk about it again, too. But since we have this showdown at the Alamo, and we find out that, well, one, he lets all of the Grail people go, and we see them just collapsing because they haven't eaten or drank. I was like, this is rough.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, they're probably, a lot of them are probably going to die immediately.
Yeah, for 2 years. It's like, oh, ouch. Yeah. Going about your lives now is like, okay.
Finally, showers.
Yeah.
Because those guys looked great.
Like The Walking Dead. Jesus. But we have the showdown and we find out that the word does work on God.
Right.
And he makes it day, makes it night. Jesse can control him. He starts whipping him around, like throwing him like, there, go wherever the hell I say, because I'm Jesse. But then
flawless impersonation.
Yeah, spot on. But then he ultimately starts asking about all of the questions of the universe. And his big question is my dad up in heaven, because he had prayed so hard that he would go to hell. And God said, no, I denied your request. And so Jesse does finally get this closure and this ultimate sense of, okay, my prayers were not answered. This was actually a good thing that they weren't answered, because sometimes what you think you want isn't really what you want.
Right.
Which is a hard lesson that he's learned throughout. And kind of what God's learning in this one too, because God professes his love for Jesse, and Jesse doesn't reciprocate.
Right.
And God kind of loses it. And is like, well, I'd kick your ass if Genesis wasn't there. And he's like, Genesis, be free. And Genesis is like, bye. Deuces. Apparently you could have genied this the whole time, and we didn't know until now.
Yeah.
And Jesse's just like, I don't even need it. I'll still whip your ass, God. Bye. And then...
Yeah, that was a surprising part where he releases Genesis and then punches him in the face. I was like, dog, I probably would have done that before. But, it turns out working out pretty good for him.
I know. I thought he would have just been smited immediately and just well, thanks, Jesse. Now we're all damned. You screwed us. You saved us, and then you killed us 2 years later. Yeah. So, cool. Great. But ultimately, instead, God just chokes out his creature and kills it.
Yeah.
Murders this thing. While it's screaming out, love you, daddy. It was really creepy. Yeah, it was very, very creepy.
Very unnerving. Disturbing scene.
Meanwhile, his other child is now selling paint at a hardware store. That's where we find Jesus. He's doing customer service, which you have to be a little bit godlike to be able to do customer service, I feel.
It's probably the best job for him.
I think maybe running heaven, but, that's fine. Or hardware store.
I don't think that's something that he wanted anymore. I think like when God offered him to be like the
Messiah,
the Messiah, I think,
and
he
turned it down. And he's like, I don't want to do this.
I'm done with all this religion stuff now.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just gonna go sell paint.
Yeah.
But then we have the conclusion for Hair Star, who's out playing golf. And who ends up getting away from Chief Whitman, who has finally tracked him down in Florida by jacking off furiously, confusing them, and then shooting them and leaving them in the sand pit.
Yeah.
What did you think of this?
I thought that this was very on brand for Hair Star because
he kills Featherstone. We see that, and we're sad about that. That was like a punch in the gut.
I was like physically shook by that one because I love that actress so much, Julianne Emery. I liked her portrayal of that character, and you could see her like emotional turmoil in those last moments where she still like really like, even though she came there to kill Star, she was like, oh, but you know, wait, you said we're gonna be on the submarine
We're gonna
together?
go on the sub together.
So like I think even in that last moment, she was still contemplating it, but then after she calls him. Or he calls her Flufferman for the millionth time. She's like, not my name, dude.
Not my name. My name is Featherstone, and now you die. And we hear the shot, and then it's just her.
Yeah.
And she dies.
But that moment and the last moment in the golf course, I think those are both very on brand for Star because he has gotten out of so many ridiculous situations. He's if nothing else, he is a survivor.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
think
they
it makes
have
sense.
punished him a lot throughout,
Yeah.
but I also am like, Star sucks. I don't want him to be playing golf, like all happy on a golf course. I want him to. I mean, I did love that scene though when he sees God and then he just does that awkward smile and God's like, run.
Yeah.
I mean, the timing is just absolutely phenomenal. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been as funny, I think, if he had just died, but having him like save himself by jerking off his newly reformed, no longer spigot wiener.
Yeah. It
So
made,
odd.
It made more sense that, I mean, like, it made sense the way it ended, but I would have definitely been more satisfied if, like, someone like Jesse or Tulip had killed him. Like, I don't think Evan would have been that satisfied if he would have ended up going to jail. Like, if the chief ended up taking him to jail. I
Yeah,
don't
if
think
he
that
had
would
just
have
been gone, I wouldn't have liked that as much. So I guess, the way it ended, I can't think of a better way for it to end. So, and I didn't really give a crap about Whitman other than I thought he was funny. So him dying in a sand pit is fine, I guess.
Yeah.
We're not going to see any of them anyway. And if we, jumping ahead to our very last act, are going to kill our final characters, it's like Whitman can die. It's fine.
Yeah.
But we see the very, very end of our episode is the tombstones of Jesse Custer, 1979 to 2065. Had a good run. One of the good ones. And Tulip, Priscilla Jean, Henrietta O'Hare, both dead. With their daughter, who they said she looks more and more like you every day. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're setting this up. She looks a lot like you. She looks so much like you that it's just Ruth Negga again with a different wig.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine.
It's like, we spent all our budget on that angel fight. Let's just ask Ruth to come back.
It's fine. But the end scenes are with Ruth Negga and with Joseph Gilgun. It's not even with the preacher, the title character.
Yeah.
It's these two, which I think is such a testament to the relationship between all three of these guys, is that it's so perfectly well cast. I mean, this chemistry, you rarely get this on a show, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. So to then see these closing scenes, this very last scene of Cass, who we have loved so much, being... Oh, okay, so he dies. He's at the grave, and we find out that he never came back. He never visited them again.
Yeah.
And because he's an immortal creature, time just got away from him, and they just died. And like he said, it always happens. Time just gets away, and it's too much. And so then, since now the people he was closest to are dead, he's talking to their daughter, and she says, "Will I see you again?" And just this beautiful moment where he's like, Jesus, I hope so. Yeah. Hangs up his umbrella and walks into the sun and is burned to death while she stands there smiling.
Yeah. I thought that was such a beautifully shot scene. Probably the perfect scene to end on, like, for the show. Like, I love Joseph Gilgun's performance throughout the whole series, but like in this last scene, you could see all the pain in his voice and his face. Like when he's talking about this, again going back to the fight between him and Tulip, he's about to shoot Tulip, and then he decides to shoot Humperdoo instead. And I think that like her shooting him in the heart really actually emotionally hurt him more than anything. It's like,
because he talks about that too, where he's like, I've been burned, I've been hurt all these ways, but the only one that still hurts is when she shot me.
Yeah. And I think that's what really makes him change his mind. Is like, you know what, I should do the right thing and kill Humperdoo, because no matter how bad this hurts, that you don't love me as much as you love Jesse, I still have to do the right thing for humanity, because I still love you. Yeah. It's like, I don't want you to die.
And it's intense that Cass loves humanity more than God seems to in this. And ultimately, God does get gunned down God is killed. We have the Saint shoot him down and then take over the throne.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us now into, before we wrap up here, our final segment ever. Page flipped, talking about the differences between the comics and the show.
Yeah.
In the comics, we do have this big showdown with the Alamo. We also have Eugene becomes big rock star. We've mentioned that several times in the show, so this is kind of an allusion to that. That was the kind of fan servicey thing.
Yeah.
But we also have this big showdown at the Alamo. Only everything is very different in this one, because in the Alamo, the way that they have it in the comics, the only way Genesis can be freed is if Jesse dies.
Right.
And so Jesse dies to free Genesis, and then has a deal with God that he is resurrected, that he has with Cass, and Cass ends up walking into the sun and killing himself, which we see kind of mirrored with this. But it's all circumvented because Hair Star kills Jesse, and then Tulip kills Star.
Right.
This all ended very differently from the comics.
Yeah, like the whole, I guess, like physical battle of everyone fighting everyone happens like at a different time. It doesn't like happen, like it's not actually the battle at the Alamo. And they do have like you said, a couple of hints where Cass walking out into the sun and stuff like that. But God being killed by the Saint. But other than that, they deviated a lot.
And the Saint taking the chair.
Right. Yeah, and
the Saint taking over the chair, heaven.
Yeah, that's right. They did allude to all that stuff from the comics, but they've already pivoted so much from the comic books that like it was, like you said, it was kind of obvious that they were going to end a little differently.
I am glad that they put in the Alamo, because we were worried that they weren't going to include that, and so they were able to fit that in and make it work. And have it not feel shoehorned. Yeah,
because I think that people who aren't fans of the comic are going to be like, why is this here? Like, I think it's just,
it all makes sense, and it's all cohesive, but still has those shout outs to the fans. So, speaking of shout outs to the fans, any last thoughts or words for the fans for our very last Preacher after show ever? I just would
I've had a blast watching this show. If you're feeling a little empty in your heart and you want a fix, definitely watch Misfits, because you can get yourself some Joseph Gilgun and Ruth Negga action if you haven't watched it already. But yeah, I really love this show. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg had an amazing adaptation of a comic book that I was too afraid to read as a kid. But like, I'm so for it as an adult. Like I was pleased as punch this whole entire series, and I'm so sad that it's gone.
I was also pleased with all the punches in this series. I have had an amazing time talking about this talking about this show on this after show. Hearing from you guys has been incredible. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to keep up with all of our other amazing after shows here at AfterBuzz TV. Where can everybody keep up with you?
You can find me on all platforms: Twitter, Instagram, at Alex LaFosta. That's AlexLaFosta.
And you can find me on Twitter at Alana Jordan. That's AlanaJordan. And on Instagram at Alana J. Jordan. And you can find me every week interviewing your favorite celebrities at MEA Worldwide. That's MEAWW.com. And also find me on some more after shows here on AfterBuzz. We'll see you guys at some point. Hopefully. We love you guys.
Till the end of the world.
Mwah.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.